No one should own the ocean. We're going to talk about this in the context of the next generation digital learning environment. So what is the next generation digital learning environment and how do I get one? It's just another word for an LMS, right? Like this thing, this big old tin can, silo, walled garden, you throw, whatever thing you want out there for it. But really what you're getting is uniformity, institutional centric control, right? We get top level lms.whoever.edu, and then we get a consistent user experience with this bucket. Well, no, of course not. Otherwise it wouldn't have the word next in it, would it? So next generation, that's past, right? Not 90s generation, not 80s generation, for my God, how sad are LMSs. But so what we're talking about, and I think I kind of like this phrase better actually, is next generation distributed learning ecosystem. So that's what I'm talking about, at least. If you're looking for another NGDLE talk, you can go to a different room. There's a dozen of them at this thing. So I really like this quote. This helped frame it for me. Let's imagine I had a blue grid plate in this case, and it sticks with my ocean metaphor. So it's Troy Martin from BYU. When we were talking about, I believe it was going with some LMS vendor, but it said, I tell vendors, you are the Lego brick and we are the grid plate. And I just loved that type of metaphor of like, hey, I don't care what your product is, you're slotting into our routine and you have to play with our systems. It's not the other way around. Like, you're not the grid plate. You're giving us one little piece of the puzzle. So visualizing NGDLE, in my mind, be something like this, right? We've got all these different tools. Learners are going out to all these different places, and we have to kind of aggregate this experience together somehow. And so people are kind of taking a look at how to do that. One, you probably have heard of this guy. I don't know. He hangs out at this conference a lot. But Dr. Chuck has this idea of SVG, so you get these little microservice type of apps that you can plug into Sakai or anything else for that matter. A static website or like a MOOC or whatever. Another idea for NGDLE is Paul Hibbets has this thing called a flipped LMS. So he sets up a Grav CMS Course Hub site, and then he's got all these workflows for syncing it with Markdown files. It's flipping awesome. But the main thing is that he then provides a series of links that then push people out to other places like Canvas or Sakai or Moodle or whatever. So then what am I going to bring to the table, right? This goofy snowflake. So the way we envision NGDLE is more like this, that there's just all of this organic growth, and that the way that you're forming a course is kind of this fractally spread, right? So faculty picking different applications that meet the needs of what they need for instruction. And so it's not a system, and it's not a place necessarily, it's lots of places. So what is ELMS-LN? Well, basically, we get a big idea, whether it's a media management system or a studio tool or a discussion board, and we slap that at a different domain. And by sticking things in different domains, we get a distributed learning network. Woo! Iconography! But do we get a distributed user experience? And do people want a distributed user experience? Do people want what NGDLE is providing? Well, I'd say Outlook and Microsoft Tool Suite actually does a really good job of framing this. That you've got iconography, color, consistency of domains, accounts that are automatically logged in as you get there. And so, yeah, it works really well. However, you could be like Google, who does a pretty decent job, right? You have account uniformity, but they don't have a unified user experience. You have to pretty much relearn how to use every Google product in their suite, unless you get into like the app suite stuff I know. So here's our stab at it currently, as of like last month, is you have this interface that's giving me context as to who I am, where I am, what course I'm in, and then we provide kind of this big bucket of, hey, you can link out to whatever. So obviously we have some first-party apps, if you will, if you want to think of them that way. And so if I clicked on the studio icon, that I would have the same consistency of design, right? That I would know where I am contextually, I'd know who I am, I know what I have access to, and then some simple color choices help influence the application and what I can do there. But when I click on one of those other links to Canvas, unfortunately, I don't have that awesome user experience anymore. I've got this React app that looks like it was made in 2013 and hasn't changed much. That's weird. So, but that's not just the case with Canvas or any LMS. This is also the case I go anywhere, right? So let's say I'm the faculty, I have a blog, and I send them there. Well, now it's a different user experience. It's WordPress, right? Or I send them into OAE. right? Whatever the tool is, the notion is that we're sending them different places, and yes, maybe I'm still logged in, but now I gotta, oh crap, what was I doing? Yeah, all right, I got a mental, that cognitive load, right? It's a big deal. And so we go to Yammer, it doesn't really matter what the tool is in this case, we're going to different websites. And so how do we bridge this UX without a tunnel, infinite tunnel of iframes, a la LTI? I'm trying to propose a different worldview from the LTI worldview that just is going to funnel everything back into one place at the end of the day and presumes the entire internet is hooked up to OAuth and supports LTI natively, which ain't going to happen. We're only going to get EDU products as a result of that, which is fine up until now, but we want different experiences, things that are unexplored, rocks overturned that haven't been turned before. So this is my pitch for how we get there, and it's web components. I need you to go to webcomponents.org right now, and I need you to follow along as to why this is going to change everything. So what is web components? Well, it's actually a 4-part spec of the browser. If you remember the HTML5 video tag, that was a huge deal. We've got a new tag. Yes, this is awesome, and it's for video. Well, imagine you could make your own tag, right? Instead of having to go through the draft process and it'd be 5 years to get a new tag, what if the actual process that went through draft over the last 5 years was to make any flippin' tag? Well, that's what happened. So we've got Google Earth just launched on web components with the new version. There's also secret sauce in there, so don't act like, oh, yeah, I could just make my own Google Earth. But another better example where I think it's more of Google eating their own dog food because they're really pushing this via a project called Polymer is the new YouTube. So the new YouTube, if you go to youtube.com/new and you have Chrome or actually any newer browser, it'll say you're allowed to see it. It's entirely built in web components. So what is a web component? Well, let's look at an example. Let's say we wanted to put this awesome explosion on the page. Traditionally, we would have an IMG tag and we'd have a GIF and cool. Well, what if we wanted it to literally be an explosion? And so we could make the awesome explosion tag. And then we could add our own properties to it and say, well, I want it to be a tiny explosion or small or big or an epic explosion. And that allows our end users who are putting these tags in or use a developer putting the tag in to have a much more expressive version of what you're trying to do. So you're not writing that GIF and then doing all kind of CSS filtering. You might be saying, hey, color is blue or yellow or red or purple, and that those tags, those properties would be interpreted correctly to give you that epic purple explosion. So what are the pros of this approach other than obviously everything? Well, this allows you to do headless theming if you're into content management system terminology. Separation of concerns, right? You have everything boiled into tags, and then tags can be nested in other tags. It's a component-based architecture, very well documented. Actually, if you use Polymer, it generates a little documentation site automatically. And that last one, which should be the big deal, framework interoperability. So what do we mean by framework interoperability? Well, technically, all these frameworks are interoperable already because they're all using divs and p tags and block quote probably and blink most likely. I'm sure there's a blink tag in one of these systems. But what if we had all the access to that awesome explosion tag or our own set of tags? And then what if we opened up the universe to be interoperable with these guys as well? So what if I told you this same exact tag that I made for a Drupal site would work on a Graph site, would work on a static generator, would work in Joomla, would work in WordPress, would work in Moodle, Xerte, OAE, Sakai, Elms, anything, right? Because it's native to the browser. And then what if I told you we started working on a whole bunch of these that were pedagogically and teaching and learning centric? What if we had our own version of HTML that we could use to build whatever we wanted and to communicate it visually in a very consistent way? So let's take an incredibly simple example. The first one I made is an icon, right? Let's get SVG icons. Oh no, I want font icons. We don't need to have those arguments, right? What is the concept that we're trying to express? Well, what if every system you ever went to that had to do with instruction and it talked about an assignment used the same icon? Now the cognitive load on the user once they learn what an assignment is so much less than if they have to learn what an assignment is in OAE and learn what an assignment is in Sakai and learn what an assignment is in N+1, right? So very simple thing, right? It also makes as a developer a lot easier. I go, hey, lrn-icon, icon equals done, and now I get a check mark to indicate something's done. I don't need to figure out icon libraries anymore. Another example, let's say we had a tag lrn-vocab. So we're expressing the concept of vocabulary, and now we can start to get into the way we want to visualize vocabulary, right? So the pedagogical instructional construct is that it is, a vocabulary term, and so I have term pedagogy, definition, whatever, as the properties in that tag. But then I can visualize it in two different ways with a very simple switch, because we have these tags that stack on each other. So if you want to put it out as a block quote, because actually that vocab word comes from Wikipedia, or if you want to just put it out as just a nicely laid out card, whatever the thing is. Let's say we want it to be a flyout, right? So if we had LRN aside, how many people have made sticky notes or things that are kind of related material, but it's not exactly the same? Okay, well, that's called an aside. It's a semantic HTML tag. But what if we had a learning aside, right? An LRN aside. And an LRN aside has a title, it has the weight which is presented, and it has a body of content to throw in there. Well, if I wanted to make a flyout that was kind of related data in this case to tell you more about the assignment, that would be a lot of JavaScript and HTML, and I would need to take into account different considerations of design and accessibility, and so I'm not going to friggin' do it. That's just what happens. But what if I could put that down once, and then I could guarantee the accessibility of that and guarantee that it looked consistent across all browsers and worked awesomely, and all you had to do was copy and paste this one tag in. Pretty transformative. Let's say then I wanted to visualize that as the previous two examples as well, right? Get this aside and I say, hey, display as a paper card or display as a block quote, and now you got that too. What if those tags, because we are just talking about custom tags, what if those tags provided semantic meaning? So instead of, say, I don't know, another project I love, OER schema and people implementing OER schema, what if they just implemented the OER schema tag? Or what if the OER schema tag was secretly baked into all of our LRN tags? And so that then as people define, hey, this is an aside and its title is X, they're actually unknowingly filling out property OER-name, my resource name. What if we're allowing them to wire things up automatically without their knowledge? And now let's go a little even crazier. What if that top bar that was so important for user context, where am I, who am I, what am I working with right now? What if that was a tag? And what if that tag could run anywhere? Anywhere. What if we turned it into a Chrome app? Because you can easily compile HTML into a Chrome app, and they do have a process. It's very simple to go and rip a Polymer element into a Chrome app. And then what if you could deploy that on anything so that I could open up links of LMS lists, right? What if I could do that on Wikipedia? What if those interactions happening with the page via this plugin shoot information about what you went to off to an XAPI data store because you are the grid plate, and this is just a brick. So help us keep NGDLE Oceans free. These are just 3 of those technologies that are seeking to do that. Thank you.